Welcome back. I'm thrilled that you've joined us. I thought our last Q&A session was fabulous, and now we have a real treat. The combination of Lindsay, Melissa, and Jetty. I'm really looking forward to seeing all your questions and what all of you bring to it. So we'll kick us off. We've got two sets of questions here. Some are really kind of geared towards the recruiting part of getting into university, and some are really more geared towards the professional life. So maybe we'll start off with some of the ones geared towards university. So for students applying to a commerce program, they have to do supplementary essays or interviews. Do you have any tips for them?
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love to take this one. For Ramen Commerce specifically, we have really detailed instructions and there's specific expectations for each question. So my advice would be to really just take your time with it, read through the question carefully, and try to answer it based on your own unique experiences. So I think that's come up a lot throughout the day, but being authentic and being genuine, not pulling things like that you just did as a one-off to build your resume, but really talking about things you're passionate about that you've sustained over time. And I think that will apply for any application that you're doing. A lot of the schools ask similar interview style questions, really trying to get to know you better. So as much of your personal experiences and your interests and passions that you can share, that really comes across, and that enthusiasm will show, and that will be helpful in your application. And otherwise, a lot of them are just looking at communication skills as well. So really kind of trying to slow down and dedicate your time to it, being focused and calm will also really help with your supplemental application.
Thank you for that, Melissa. There's another question here. Similar kind of train of thought. But do employers look at the degree and work experience you have, or do they also take into consideration the exact university you went to? So is there really a difference between completing your degree at a specific university, or is it really more about who you are, the skill set you bring? So over to you, panelists.
I can address that one, Camilla, because I do quite a bit of recruitment for RBC. So I would say some of the universities have formal connections to some of the banks. So we would naturally get, applications from some of those schools straight through that channel. But we also have open applications just on the internet to the public. So it doesn't really matter what university you go to. Just what might be different is if your university doesn't have a formal recruiting process for the specific bank, you just would apply online on your own. And, when I'm looking through resumes, I'm not looking for a particular school. I'm not even looking for a particular degree. I have a science degree and ended up in finance. I'm not just looking for applicants with commerce degrees. We've hired people with engineering degrees. We've hired people with history degrees. What we want to see in those applications is, what have you done with that degree? What different things have you done? What clubs have you joined? What does your cover letter say about you and who you are and why you want to be in finance? If you can tell me why a fine arts student wants to work in finance and it sounds compelling, I will give you an interview. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day how you get there if you can tell your story in a way that makes us interested to talk to you.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Lindsay. There's one here about defining some degrees. They see a lot of acronyms, so they're curious. What's the difference between a BBA, a BCom, a BSc? Anybody want to take a quick stab at shedding some light on what all these acronyms mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many in the university world, and I'll let someone else jump in too afterwards. But just as a general start, it's good to explore the university websites and see a little bit about which courses you actually take in the different degrees. Generally speaking, for business, it's usually a Bachelor of Commerce, which is shortened to a BCom, or a Bachelor of Business Administration, which is often a BBA. And those two degrees used to be quite different, but they've kind of merged and are a lot more similar these days. So typically a BCom still has a little bit more emphasis on math and economics, and a BBA, sometimes you don't even need high school math. So there are options as well to explore that way. But generally speaking, it's best to do your research and look at the actual courses you can take, talk to people who are in careers that you admire and see what degree they did and maybe follow a similar path. And then, of course, a BSc is a Bachelor of Science, a BA is a Bachelor of Arts. So there are a ton of options, and it's good to ask us to slow down because we're so immersed in these acronyms. Sometimes we throw them out without realizing. So it's absolutely okay to keep asking questions. Don't be shy about that. and really take your time to explore the different programs and find the one that's the best fit for you.
It's so true. That follows you your entire life as well, that you have acronyms whenever you move into something new that you don't understand. So it's always great to ask questions. Jetty, I think you were about to add some comments there.
Yes. Hey, thank you, everyone. Just so to give you all an example, I actually was an honor Bachelor of Arts dual degree for human resources as well as English at U of T. And then I completed a master's in HR. So I think, the programs and just like Melissa mentioned, BBA and commerce nowadays are more similar, but I think also unique to each school. So for example, at U of T, the Rotman Commerce would be a BCom, and for example, at Schulich, it would be a BBA. But they're fairly similar courses for both of these programs. And BSc is something that I think in the world of finance has a lot of soft skills that can be transferable. So also going back to Lindsay's point on, if you have a compelling story, and even if you're studying from a STEM background or a math background or economics background, that can, as long as you have that passion and curiosity in finance, it could be helpful. So I think what I would recommend is to make a list of the different campuses that you're interested in, and then list out some of these degrees and programs that you're looking to pursue. Take a look at some of those courses, such as economics or finance or accounting, and then see what appeals best to you. And the other piece is to look at specific programs that, let's say, have a work term or like a co-op term. So that would also be helpful to make note of. Yeah, thank you.
That really clears it up. Thank you. Here's one about LinkedIn. I can't remember which panel it was on, but at one point LinkedIn came up. And so a student's asking, I'm unfamiliar with LinkedIn. Once you apply for jobs, what should you really keep in mind in your LinkedIn profile? Is there anything you recommend and anything that should be restricted? And just as a side note, I'll highlight that I think you have to be 16 to be on LinkedIn, but anyone want to tackle that one?
I can take a little bit of a stab at it. So the way I would look at LinkedIn is it is a professional site. So, the pictures that you want to put on there should be professional. The type of information you want to put in there should be about, jobs that you've held, maybe some volunteerism that you've done, clubs that you've been in, anything that if you ran into me and you wanted a job from me, things that you could tell me about yourself that would help me learn what your experience is, but also who you are, but on the more professional side. So, if you go on vacation, I don't need to see that you went away somewhere on your LinkedIn, but what I do want to hear is maybe you went somewhere and you volunteered there, and what did you do there, and which organization did you work with? And maybe you were the captain of a sports team. I don't need to know that you won a bunch of championships, but I do want to know that you had that leadership opportunity to lead a team and motivate a team, and the skills that you got from that. So I would look at LinkedIn as anything you would want to tell somebody that would tell them about who you are as a person, what your interests are, maybe what your education is, and just give them a bit of a flavor of who you are while keeping it all pretty professional. So you don't need a lot of the personal details, but I think it is important to share some of your interests and some of the things that you like to do in your spare time so that we get to know who you are as a person. That's kind of how I approach LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was just going to jump into and say that you can also really benefit from LinkedIn. It can be kind of a stepping stone into exploring these careers and industries. So if you follow a bunch of the companies or the news outlets that are reporting on trends in finance or trends in business, that can be a really easy way to stay up to date too. And commenting on different articles or sharing them as well can also give a bit of an impression of what your interests are and how engaged you are with the community. And that could also be the motivation to go on LinkedIn every once in a while and stay up to date. So there's also a return for you as well. There's a lot of value you can get out of it other than just having it be your resume. And I think the whole idea of it, in addition to your resume, is that it's a little bit more organic. You can add things as they happen in real time, share your wins at case competitions or exactly your volunteering from past weekends. So it can really be a little bit more organic than the hard copy resume that you submit for each job.
Terrific. Thank you. So there is one aimed at me, which I love. So thank you, Madeline. So she's asking about what programs does WCM have for pre-university students and university students. So I'll take up a minute of airtime here. If you're in high school, we just launched our student portal. Some of our panelists are actually part of that portal. That portal is really supposed to highlight the journey from high school all the way to your first job in finance. I think we posted it in the chat, but you can also find it at wcm.ca. And we have 10 amazing women who we've highlighted through video and profiles, and then another 10 women that we've highlighted through video. So I hope you enjoy that. We also have this wonderful program, SheBiz, every year, and we have Job Shadow Day, where we bring high school students right into the trade floors, and we let them get to see what a day in the life of somebody like Lindsay really is. And so that's been a fabulous program. Once you get to university, we have a whole ton of programming, a mentorship programming, a speaker series, things like how to ace your interview. And we do a lot of networking so that you really get to be able to get to know some of the professionals working in the industry. So that was my minute here. Back over to our panelists. We have a question here from a high school student that says, do schools, universities really like seeing business schisms, or does it matter?
So again, this is something that might vary by school. I hate saying that you have to do all the research yourself, but it is really part of the process of choosing your university and applying to different programs. There is a lot of research involved. So for us, specifically at Rotman Commerce, it doesn't count academically as part of your admissions process, but always things that can introduce you more to the business world and can enhance your high school experience, we recommend doing. So if you're interested in it, if it's offered at your school, it could be a great opportunity. And just because it's not formally factored into admissions isn't a reason not to do it. So that's something to keep in mind too. Just because it doesn't directly correlate to admissions doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But generally speaking, for extracurriculars or for anything outside of the classroom or in addition to your classroom experiences, it doesn't always have to be business related either, right? As long as you're passionate about it and that enthusiasm can come across, those are the things we want to hear about if we have a supplemental application. And so experiences you have through a business schism might be able to tie in there. Oh, you're still muted, Camilla.
Thank you for that. So we've got a student here who says she's really interested in business, but math isn't her strongest skill set. Can she still do a finance and business degree? What will it be like if she really hasn't gotten the best marks in calculus and functions in high school?
Hey, I can take this one. It's Jetty. There's actually, for when you do your research into the different business or commerce programs, you can actually start thinking about the future streams that you might specialize in. And oftentimes there's accounting or finance streams or management streams as well that you can also further specialize as you get more into your upper years of university. So that might be some things to think about in terms of which areas of business you are most interested in. But when you start getting into the first year commerce, you will start learning more about math. Is very different from high school math. So I would say, don't be discouraged at this point, right? Try and take a look first and learn. And that's why keeping in terms of your timelines on your courses and changing your courses can also be helpful in case you do want to change it a little bit later on. But I think definitely try to find that self-confidence to try it first for your first semester.
I would echo that a little bit too. I definitely didn't love math a lot in high school. I ended up taking calculus in university and statistic courses in university, and then I took them again in my MBA. So, I didn't love it at first, but I think one of the great things about universities, you can try these things out, and there are lots of people at school who can support you. If it's not your strong suit, maybe you find a friend who's really good at it but needs help with another course. And so, we do a lot of things like this in the workplace too. There'll be things that I'm maybe not the best at, and I go get help from a colleague. I'll help them out with something I'm really good at. So it's great to try these things and know that you can learn, the way that, you do math in high school, it's very different in university. And then the way we apply it in the finance world is completely different as well. I was on a panel earlier today with with somebody who uses really, really applied mathematics, and the rest of us don't really use math all that much to the same degree in our roles, but we all work in finance. So I would say don't let that one thing hold you back. Give it a shot. Ask for help if you need help, and then help someone else in return. You can learn these things. They are new for a lot of people when they go to university, and you don't want to shut the door to an amazing career in finance just because you don't really like math. I'm so glad that I stuck it out because I love my job now. And if I hadn't, stuck with the math, I wouldn't be here today. So stick with it and do what you can to, learn and try and get some help.
It's funny how many people have that experience with high school math, and then they get to university and they discover they love it. Lindsay, I think this next question is pretty much aimed at you. Really, they're just talking about how do you know you were going to love business? It all seems like there's so many choices to make. How did you find out you were actually interested in pursuing business?
This sounds like a planted question from you, Camilla, because
Was it?
you know my story. But so those of you who are on the line don't know my story because I didn't tell you a lot about myself when I ran the panel earlier. But I actually did a science degree. I never had any intention of going into business. I thought I was going to be a doctor or I was going to work in a hospital. And then I got to second year and I had to do dissections, and I was like, that's not for me. No way. Absolutely not. It took me a while to find my way to finance. So I finished my science degree. I actually worked full-time for the university for a little while, running a small business, which was really cool. And when I was doing it, I loved it. And I didn't even realize that it was business. And someone said, oh, you should think about going to do business school or go and do a master's. And I was like, why? I had no idea connecting the two together that it was really business what I was doing, but I loved it. So after exploring some different options and doing a little bit of work, I decided to go do my MBA. Again, I was not interested in finance. I was going to do hospital administration, or I was going to go into marketing, or I was going to do strategy. And even at the time in school, the finance courses were not really the most exciting things to me. But interestingly, I attended a WCM event finally when I was in my MBA the first time, and I was like in the middle of my 20s at this point. And there were these women talking about these amazing, fast-paced, dynamic jobs that they had on the trading floor. And I didn't understand half of what they were talking about, but I saw their passion and how excited they were to go into work and how every day was different and they learned something new every day. And I loved the sound of that. So I had a great opportunity during my MBA to do some co-ops. I did them at RBC. I did one on the trading floor. I did one in wealth management. And that kind of started my interest. And even in those internships, they weren't exactly what I wanted to do. But I learned from that and I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And then I took another job. And from that job, I found a little bit more what I liked and what I didn't like. And then I moved to another job. And so now, years later, I am in my dream job in finance, but it wasn't like I went into commerce, I knew what I wanted to do, and I got the job. You might not know right away that you love finance. You might decide you love finance now and then take it in a different direction later in your career. So don't feel you have to know that you love it now. Don't feel you have to commit to it now. I would say just have an open mind, try everything out. I think somebody mentioned on this panel, like if you can do a co-op or a work placement, do it. And I would highly recommend that, because what you hear in class and what you read in the book is so different from what the job actually is. And I would hate for somebody to think that that's all it is and not try it out. So try everything. If it's not for you, pivot a little bit. Don't be discouraged. My passion for it really has evolved over the last decade, to be honest. So that's my story.
Well, I can't think of a better note to close on. Thank you for that, Lindsay. I hope all of you students who joined us today got a lot of good out of this. And feel free to reach out to Ruth or myself. You can find us at info@wcm.ca. Check out our website. There's some fabulous careers in finance. They're just really hard to nail down to one or two little pieces, but there really is an open path for everyone, regardless of your strength, regardless of your style of personality and your interest in high school. I think you can find some really rewarding pieces. So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Jetty. Thank you, Melissa, for joining us on Ask Us Anything. Clearly, the students are very engaged because the questions kept coming. And I hope you all enjoy this journey as you're looking at your futures from high school and planning for university. You're already well ahead by paying attention and watching things like this. So best of luck to you. I know you're going to do great.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an amazing event. So if you'll just bear with me for 2 seconds, we're just getting together the winners of the 4 Etsy gift cards. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put up the pictures of the responses that we got on Instagram that were selected. And what we'll ask is that if you could just reach out to us or we'll reach out to you on Instagram and then we'll get right back to you. So if you could just hang in there for just a second. Thanks so much.